when the curtain fell,
I didn't like him.
the honeymoon was over.
He would be drunk.
Jackie Gleason on Biography, next on A&E.
One more thing.
There is one more thing.
Catch Columbo tomorrow at 9/8 Central on 8.
For November 15th, 2002, Biography with guest host Mario Cantone.
Jackie Gleason, he brought us some of the most memorable characters in comedy, from Ralph Cramden to Buford T. Justice. For Jackie Gleason, life was an all-you-can-eat buffet, a parade of drunken nights, willing women, and comedic excess. Sounds pretty sweet to me. Hello, I'm Mario Cantone, and welcome back to Comedians Night on Biography. You know, when it all got to be too much, Gleason would check himself into the nearest hospital, recharge his batteries, and plot his next assault on America's funny bone. Sounds all too familiar. It wasn't a hospital for me, but maybe a spa, a little detox. His no-holds-barred style earned Gleason the nickname the Abominable Showman. That was Gleason.
How sweet it is. Oh, you are a yummy, yum, yum crowd.
Jackie had an incredible energy, and he was the sun around which other planets revolved.
Go! Bang, zoom.
He's just a phenomenal performer. He was a comedic genius. Didn't matter where he was. He could be in the back. You know, you just watch him. You're drawn to him.
He was the king of television comedy, whose versatility stretched from the recording studio to the big screen and beyond.
Big John, you think this boy is a hustler?
Jackie Gleason is one of the great talents of all time. Was and will always be.
After a childhood of poverty, Jackie Gleason spent a lifetime battling loneliness, obesity, and depression, but always insisted on living large.
Those that loved him, understood him, accepted him as he was, and he was a wonderful man.
In 1916, the streets of Brooklyn, New York were teeming with Irish and Italian immigrants. Neighbors exchanged gossip in the streets while laundry hung from the windows above. Gangs of children roamed the alleyways, and nearly everyone was broke. It was here on February 26th that Herbert John Gleason was born and nicknamed Jackie. His father, Herb, had grown up in Brooklyn with lofty dreams of a prosperous future. But at the age of 34, Herb was an embittered office clerk in Manhattan, earning a meager $25 a week. Jackie's mother, May, was a spendthrift who loved beautiful clothes, and she resented that her family was barely scraping by. Both Jackie's parents drank heavily, and young Jackie was frightened by their constant fighting over money and the care of their sickly firstborn son, Clement. When Clement died at the age of 14, Jackie's mother grew increasingly overprotective and went to great lengths to keep little Jackie safely confined to the apartment.
His mother liked orange blossoms, gin and orange juice. And she'd have them downstairs at a pub wherever they lived. And he told me that she tied him to his rocking chair to keep him there so that she could go down and have some orange blossoms. And then that didn't work. He managed to undo the knots, little Houdini. And he got out the window and went down the fire escape. So then she nailed the window shut to keep him in. And I thought that was pretty sad.
Kept out of school until the age of 8, Jackie spent restless hours at the window watching the neighborhood kids play in the streets below. In 1924, when he was finally enrolled in New York Public School 73, Jackie was far behind his peers, both academically and socially. He felt like an outsider and looked forward to the weekends when his father took him along to Brooklyn's Halsey Theater to see the comedians on stage.
Where are you working? In a nut and bolt works. Well, what do you do? Nothing. Well, why don't you do something? I am doing something. I am doing something. Well, what are you doing? Nothing.
His father took him to vaudeville. And Jackie stood up, turned around, and looked at the audience and realized that all of these people were watching what was going on stage. That moment, he knew that's what he wanted to do with his life. He wanted to be up on that stage.
Jackie also delighted in the antics of silent movie stars like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. The youngster enjoyed pretending that he was one of the slapstick comics and found that his talent for mimicry won him friends and recognition at school. But on December 15th, 1925, Jackie's world fell apart. That evening, Herb Gleason never came home from work. He had abandoned his wife and 9-year-old son, leaving them destitute. Jackie was heartbroken and believed his father's disappearance was his fault. Over the next few years, the adolescent waited in vain for his father to return and consoled himself by gorging on whatever food was available. As America entered the Great Depression, money was tighter than ever. Jackie and his mother were forced to move into a cold water tenement on Chauncey Street. And in order to support them, May worked long hours in a change booth on the BMT subway line.
One of the most vivid memories I have is watching her get dressed to go to work. She put on my leggings and then put her stockings over them so she could go through the snow and get to work. And I'd been a terror up until then. I was a tough kid. But from that moment on, when I saw her do that, I decided to be a good boy. Anyway, what I thought was a good boy.
Often left on his own, Jackie began skipping school and discovered that he had a gift for smooth talk and thinking on his feet. He now spent his time with the neighborhood gangs, hustling cash at local pool halls. At the age of 15, he conned truant officers into believing he was his mother's sole means of support and had to quit high school to get a job. But Jackie was no 9-to-5er, and like his father, had dreams of something grander than an ordinary blue-collar life. He signed up for amateur night at the Halsey Theater, where his off-the-cuff impressions had management in stitches. By 1935, Jackie was earning $4 a performance, although his inconsistent pay did little to ease the poverty at home. Jackie worried as May Gleason's health failed due to alcoholism, depression, and overwork. He begged her to see a doctor, but she refused and soon grew too weak to leave her bed. That spring, Jackie watched helplessly as his 49-year-old mother died of blood poisoning from an untreated infection. At the age of 19, Jackie was on his own and lonelier than he had ever been in his life. Desperate for money, the aspiring entertainer moved into a $6 a week room in Manhattan with 2 fellow comics. Gleason was thrilled when his friends helped him land a job, a 1-week gig at a nightclub in Reading, Pennsylvania, known locally as the Tiny Chateau.
It was the first nightclub I ever played. And I went in there this night, and I did the first show. And I had a clean act, and they just sat there. And I died the death of a dog. And when the show was over, Tiny was this guy who booked me in. He says, "Where did you get me this bum?" And I'm standing there with everybody looking at me. And I guess he knew he had struck a nerve. And he says, "Oh, come on, we'll have a drink at the bar." So we went up to the bar, and we had about 7 drinks. And I went on to do the second show. And the next morning he said to me, "Why didn't you do what you did in the second show in the first show?" I said, "What did I do?" So every night I'd come down here for the first show, have 7 shots, and go on.
With each night's resounding applause, Gleason's confidence grew, and so did his number of bookings. He returned to New York and began working in a string of second-rate clubs. Jackie traded insults with the customers and did an occasional soft shoe in exchange for $35 a week and all he could eat. Jaunty, dashing, and eager to impress, Jackie never let cash burn a hole in his pocket. He spent lavishly on clothes, on drink, and on showgirls. Soon, 20-year-old Jackie fell in love with a beautiful blonde dancer named Genevieve Halford, whom he had met at the Halsey. On September 20th, 1936, after a whirlwind courtship, the couple married in St. Columbia Church in New York. Gleason insisted his bride give up her stage job, while Genevieve expected her husband to settle down into a happy family life.
Genevieve was a very God-fearing Christian woman, very moral, straight-laced, which is sort of strange when you look at the type of flamboyant personality that Jackie was, even in those days, you know, buying rounds of drinks for everybody. But I think maybe he felt he needed that sort of stabilizing influence in his life.
On July 31st, 1939, Genevieve gave birth to their first child, a daughter christened Geraldine. But Jackie proved no more attentive a father than a husband. He ignored his wife's pleas to spend more time at home, preferring instead to show off for strangers by buying them rounds of drinks at the corner bar. By now, Jackie's career was picking up momentum. He had found both a manager and a group of new friends, including a comic whose material he'd been stealing for months, Milton Berle.
I come off the stage one night, and the stage manager came over to me. He said to me, I saw your act last night. I said, what'd you say? He said, I saw your act last night. My act? Yeah. There's a switch. Somebody's stealing from me. Oh. His name is Jackie Gleason.
By January 1940, Gleason had put his personal stamp on Berle's routine, adding physical comedy and poking fun at his own expanding waistline. That month, the 23-year-old made his Manhattan debut at Club 18, where celebrities delighted in being insulted by rude waiters and wisecracking comedians. Jack Warner of Warner Brothers Studios was so amused by the jeers Gleason hurled at him that he offered the cocky performer $250 a week to try his luck in the movies. Jackie was convinced he had made it to the big time. Leaving his wife and young daughter behind, Jackie Gleason boarded a train for California, ready to trade in his club work for a shot at Hollywood stardom.
You're watching Jackie Gleason, to the moon, Alice, on Biography.
In 1941, Jackie Gleason, the inveterate New Yorker, arrived in Los Angeles, where palm trees swayed under sunny skies and celebrities sipped champagne poolside. He went right to work on his first Warner Brothers film, Navy Blues, a screwball comedy starring Martha Raye and the three Jacks, Okie, Carson, and Haley. But Gleason's appearance was so brief that his screen debut went virtually unnoticed. In his next two films, he was little more than an extra.
Did that give you a feeling about Hollywood? Did you have a particular attitude on it?
It certainly did give me a feeling about Hollywood. I kept saying to myself, here's this tremendous talent, and they're not using it. But I understand how it happens. They just sign people and pay no attention to them.
Gleason knew that Warner's had no idea how to cast him and had high hopes when the studio loaned him out to 20th Century Fox for their Technicolor film, Springtime in the Rockies. The extravagant production featured musical stars Betty Grable and Cesar Romero, John Payne and Carmen Miranda. But Gleason's character was neither funny nor acerbic, and once again his gift for comedy was wasted.
There's the tickets, reservations already made.
And what makes you think she'd leave Victor Prince for Bickle and Brown?
She's not to know anything about Bickle and Brown. You've got to make her come back for you.
She hates me.
She adores you. Now, here's what you do. You go up there, you turn on the old charm, fan the old flame. Make her see what a romantical guy she walked out on. Don't mention Bickle and Brown at all.
Why should I go to all that trouble? I don't want her back. I don't need her back.
Without Vicky, you're a dead turkey. Bickle and Brown said it, and now I say it. What do you say?
I say go away from me. I am beginning to loathe, detest, and despise you. Blow.
Worried that his first opportunity at stardom was slipping through his fingers, Jackie decided to go on a diet and become a leading man. But after losing more than 50 pounds, executives told him that he was funnier, fat.
They didn't quite know what to do with him, and so this led to his frustration, and his frustration led to his eating.
Within weeks, Jackie's weight ballooned to over 200 pounds. In 1942, Warner Brothers again loaned Jackie to Fox, where he was cast as a bass player with Glenn Miller's band in Orchestra Wives.
Now, wait a minute, fellas, wait a minute. Don't start that again. That's how we got the jam in Cincinnati.
Why, my dear Chancellor, this agitation is needless. We couldn't possibly get in that big a jam again. Much smaller town.
I beg your pardon, Professor, but if you recall, I saw the specimen first.
What? My dear doctor, you forget I'm the greatest living authority on the cinch.
There he goes again. Out of the frying pan, into the frying pan.
Orchestra Wives met with only modest success, and it did little to advance Gleason's career. He remained frustrated by the studio's lack of vision. On the set, Jackie was still just a face in the crowd, but after hours, he enjoyed the spotlight, performing at Slapsy Maxie's Club. He also spent nights drinking till dawn with pals Jack Haley, Martha Ray, and a group of local jazzmen from whom he developed a love of music. By the end of that year, Jackie's contract with Warner Brothers was running out. When his next film, Tramp, 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 failed at the box office, Gleason was dropped from the studio roster.
He was a dependable best friend type, and that's about the best they could do with him. He just didn't have that spark that caught anybody's attention.
The 26-year-old comic bought a ticket back to New York, humiliated that he was going home a failure. Jackie's family had now grown to include a second daughter, Linda, and his wife and two girls were looking forward to his return. But Gleason took up residence in a string of hotels. He spent borrowed money on room service, hired a Dixieland band for his all-night parties, and bummed around with his new pal, Toots Shor. Toots Shor's nightclub on West 51st Street became Jackie's second home.
Toots Shor's was everybody who was happening in town, everybody mixed up there. Sardi's was lovely, but it was all actors, but Toots Shor's, any night you'd go in there, you would find the regulars. Jackie was one of the regulars.
Gleason was determined to play the part of the local boy done good. He dressed like a dandy, ate and drank to excess, had a 5-pack-a-day cigarette habit, and indulged in his passion for chorus girls. He and Genevieve quarreled constantly over money and over his inattention to the children. Jackie called himself a bon vivant. Genevieve called him an irresponsible husband and father.
Genevieve was a nice person, and she was, she was a mother and she was a good wife, for a guy. But Jackie was not that kind of guy. He wasn't going to show up, and that's all there was to it.
For Jackie, nothing would stand in the way of his work. He returned to the clubs where he was at his best, improvising material and creating his own characters in front of live audiences. In 1943, impresario Lou Walters caught Gleason's act and was convinced that the comic could transfer his talent to the stage. Over the next year, Jackie appeared in Walters' Broadway revue, Artist and Models, and the national tour of the musical, Hell's a-Poppin'. In the spring of 1944, Jackie's career took a leap forward when he won a role opposite torch singer Gertrude Nielsen in the World War II comedy Follow the Girls. His hilarious slapstick portrayal of serviceman Goofy Gale stole the show. Producers quickly raised his salary from $400 to $1,000 a week. Jackie Gleason was Broadway's newest darling. In 1946, the exclusive Carnival nightclub asked Jackie if he could fill in for their ailing headliner, Milton Berle.
There's a word called chutzpah. Those that don't know what chutzpah means, nerve. But that was Gleason. He said, sure, pal, I'll be glad to jump in for him. But I want to get paid what Burl gets paid for a week there, $25,000. He was there for 2 days, and all of a sudden, I got well quick.
But to Jackie, money wasn't the issue. It was proving that he was as valuable as Burl.
Oh, he had a cocksure demeanor. Oh, boy. He knew where he was going. Even when he was playing the small time and little clubs, that he had a desire. He knew where he was going to reach. He knew what his goal was. So he stood by it.
His whole makeup was ambitious. I mean, even the fact that he was in the pool halls when he was a teenager was ambitious, hustling money. He could have been loafing around on the street corners, but he wasn't. He was out there hustling and making money and palling around with guys he thought could help him get ahead.
By 1949, the 33-year-old performer had worked in nightclubs, in films, and on stage. But there was a new medium in town called television that was about to change Jackie Gleason's life forever.
You're watching Jackie Gleason. To the moon, Alice, on Biography.
This week on Biography. All next week on A&E.
2,142 to Largo, al factor of delle città, largo. Mother, with your fragrance divine.
In 1949, personalities such as Milton Berle, Arthur Godfrey, and Phil Silvers were adapting their routines to the small screen and emerging as power players in the new medium. That year, Jackie jumped on the television bandwagon too. After making several guest appearances doing his stand-up routine, he accepted a starring role as an unsophisticated aircraft riveter in NBC's newest series, The Life of Riley. William Bendix had made the character of Chester A. Riley famous on radio, but the former film star's contract forbade him to work on television. Gleason was happy to take over the role and relocated his family to Los Angeles.
At that time, a lot of movie people wouldn't even touch television because it was an unproven medium, and everybody thought it was a fad that was gonna come and go within a matter of years. I think Jackie was so hungry for success and so hungry to see his image anywhere, and this was a chance to be on television every week.
Appearing opposite Rosemary DeCamp as his devoted wife, Gleason's Riley tried to survive the hardships of ordinary blue-collar life.
Junior, do you mean to sit there and tell me that you don't know what inflation is? I bet your sister knows. Go ahead, Babs. Tell Junior what inflation is.
Well, I'm not too clear on it. Just what is inflation?
How do you like that, Peg? Can you beat that? Our kids don't know what inflation is.
Suppose you explain it to them, dear.
Well, it's very simple. Take the price of steak.
Steak?
Now, the price of steak is going up and up and up. And soon we won't be able to afford to have steak. All we'll be able to afford is potatoes and spaghetti. So we have potatoes and spaghetti 7 days a week. Until one morning I get up and try to put on my pants and I can't button them. Now that's inflation.
Gleason did everything he could to make the part his own, but the tightly scripted show left no room for improvisation, and Jackie felt stifled in Bendix's role.
What a revolting development this is.
The Life of Riley, starring Jackie Gleason, lasted only 26 weeks. Once again, Jackie left Hollywood feeling he had failed. But his luck was about to change. Since 1948, CBS, ABC, NBC, and the Dumont Network had been fighting for control of the airwaves. By now, Dumont had fallen far behind its rivals. None of their shows made the top 30, and there was no money to bring in established talent. Network executives offered Jackie only $750 a week to MC their Saturday night variety show. Gleason took the job.
Jackie was cheap, and he could do a lot of things. And he was very extemporaneous in what he did. He wanted to work. He would have worked any place.
And now, here he is, the star of our
our show, Jackie Gleason.
On July 8th, 1950, 34-year-old Gleason debuted as the host of Dumont's Cavalcade of Stars. Jackie was on cloud nine. The unpredictability of live television and the response from the studio audience brought out the best in him.
I'm torn between two loves, and I must make my decision now, but it's so difficult. Each one of them has so much. You shish kebabs, you have, well, let's face it, you have money. Oh, but you, Alphonse, you have youth. You have youth. What's the matter? Is it slipping?
He was never really a great stand-up comedian, and he himself acknowledged that. So that was not his natural field. Whereas when he got into sketches, then, of course, his genius could flower.
To fill out the cast, Jackie handpicked a number of supporting players, including a wiry 32-year-old named Art Carney. Carney was never thrown off balance by Gleason's frequent improvisations. And his impeccable sense of timing made him a perfect foil for Jackie's on-stage antics. Gleason insisted Carney become a regular on the show.
Very good, sir.
Cavalcade of Stars broke into TV's top 10, and by the end of Gleason's first season, Dumont was anxious to sign their host to an exclusive contract. Forever in debt, Jackie settled for a cash loan of $5,000 and a salary of $1,500 a week. Gleason now took control of every aspect of the show. He oversaw scripts, cast guests, and brought in choreographer June Taylor and her dancers. But Cavalcade's surprising hit was a brief sketch about a loudmouth blue-collar worker named Ralph Cramden and his long-suffering wife, Alice, played by Pert Kelton. Jackie named it The Honeymooners.
Now, don't start up with me, Ralph. I'm not in the mood for it. Just don't start up with me, Ralph. I'm not in the mood for it.
It's fine. That's fine. It's okay with me. I won't start up with you. Don't you ask me to go down to Crosses for any bread.
The set bore a striking resemblance to the Brooklyn tenement of Jackie's youth, and the couple's relationship mirrored that of his own parents.
I'm not going down to Krause's tonight for the bread. I'm not going down to Krause's last night for the bread. And I'm not going down to Krause's the night before for the bread.
Who do you think you're hating? Me? I don't eat bread. I'll show you how much I eat bread. Here's the heel, and there they go.
How are you frightened? How are you frightened? You threw the heels at the bread? Watch this. Is this the box that holds the bread? There!
Comedy comes from just everyday little situations, and that's what we enjoy, and when people can relate to them. Jackie was funny. He made everyday life funny.
Alice, where are my black socks?
You got a nerve asking me where your black socks?
What, is it a crime for a man to ask his wife where his black socks are?
Where would your socks be?
In the drawer.
That's where they are.
And that's what I asked you. Are you ever going to have the drawer fixed?
Yes.
The Honeymooners was an immediate success. Art Carney was brought in to play Ralph Cramden's upstairs neighbor, Ed Norton, and Joyce Randolph was cast as Norton's wife, Trixie. After only a year and a half, the Honeymooners sketches had helped Jackie Gleason become one of television's most sought-after talents. Network executives referred to him as a genius, or sometimes even the Great One.
Well, his talent was the greatest. A lot of people thought he was a show-off by doing, you know, I'm the great one. No, he knew it.
But Jackie's wife thought he was anything but the great one. He drank too much, smoked too much, and alternately binged and crash dieted. Gleason's health suffered as his weight bounced between 200 and 300 pounds.
Being fat doesn't bother me because I have suits that fit me at any weight. Like I have 170-pound suits, 180-pound suits, 190-pound suits. This is a 190-pound suit. The suit weighs 190 pounds. I'm 280.
His weight would fluctuate so much. He had 3 sets of wardrobe, skinny, medium, and fat.
By 1951, Jackie and Genevieve had been married 15 years, most of which had been spent living apart. Gleason wanted out, but both he and Genevieve were devout Catholics and reluctant to divorce. Jackie was further upset by mounting money troubles. Gleason's spending sprees left him virtually broke, and he told Dumont he would require a second personal loan for $15,000. The network flat out refused. 35-year-old Jackie was indignant. He had grown used to getting his way, and soon Dumont would learn that no one said no to the great Gleason.
Who is your favorite TV comedian? Visit Biography.com and tell us what you think.
By the summer of 1952, 36-year-old Jackie Gleason was heading Dumont's only hit show and almost single-handedly keeping the network afloat. But the performer's contract with Dumont was almost up.
Sammy, a little traveling music, please.
Both NBC and CBS were anxious to get Jackie Gleason. There was a bidding war going on. Dumont could not compete with that.
Gleason was confident of his worth and held out until CBS offered him a $2 million contract and sole control over production.
And the first big meeting we had with Jackie and all of the director and the director's assistant and so on down the line, and we were discussing what the show was going to be about, and Jackie looked up at me and he said, "We've got to go out big. It's got to be 16 girls." I said, 16? What are we going to do with 16 girls at that little camera? And he looked back at me and he said, "I'll tell you what. We'll put a camera in the balcony."
The Jackie Gleason Show debuted live on September 20th, 1952 at 8 p.m. Pitted against NBC's popular All-Star Review, Gleason was at his finest.
This season, we're going to knock our brains out to entertain you, and we hope you like the show. Could we start killing ourselves now? A little soft shoe music, please. Nice style. Oh, you are a good group. May I bring you this message from the park department? Keep off the grass! Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have an opening joke, so I'll appreciate it if you'll think of something funny and laugh. I look. And now on with the show, and away we go.
All the characters that Jackie had created on Cavalcade were back. Charlie Bratton.
Well, as the Lima said to the string, "Hi, old bean."
Joe the bartender.
Hi, Mr. Dummy.
Fenwick Babbitt.
Doing nice, man.
The poor soul. And Reginald Van Gleason. But while the honeymooners went with him to CBS, Jackie was dismayed that one cast member couldn't make the move, Pert Kelton. On tour in Chicago, Kelton had suffered a severe heart attack, and doctors advised her to put her career on hold. Gleason began searching for a replacement, concerned that audiences might not accept anyone else in the part of Alice. Although 30-year-old actress Audrey Meadows eagerly wanted the role, Jackie rejected her as being too glamorous.
Audrey said, "How about me?" And
Jackie said, "Are you out of your cotton-picking mind?"
She told her manager, Val Irving, "I've got an idea. Come over to my house early one morning, and as soon as I get out of bed and all messed up and everything, take some pictures of me, and we'll submit those."
And she put her hair up like Kirk Kelton, you know. And they sent the pictures up to Gleason, and he said, "Now that's the look I want."
Audrey brought a new softness to the character of Alice and still managed to stand her ground with Ralph.
Okay, where is it?
Just as soon as I get it cooked.
As soon as you get it cooked. What do you mean, as soon as you get it cooked? Haven't you got it cooked?
Well, what do you want from me? I can't cook it till it thaws out.
Thaws out? What are we having, snowballs?
For millions of Americans, Ralph Cramden became the blue-collar hero they were eager to invite into their living rooms each week.
Small hotel.
Look, Perry Como. Just stop the singing and cut the hair. And watch out with that scissors. One wrong move, I could lose an ear.
So what? The way you eat should grow another one.
He knew people. He knew being poor. He knew that neighborhood. He knew Alice well. He knew that character well. And he had a sense of what made them laugh.
You mind giving me an explanation?
If
you don't mind, Ralph, I'd just like to take my time. I mean, 99 years is a pretty big chunk out of a man's life. Now, just let me sign it.
Take all the time you want.
Boy.
But it was the match between Carney's bungling Norton and Gleason's hot-headed Cramden that brought down the house.
Jackie Gleason and Art Carney were the Laurel and Hardy of television comedy history. They were a great comedy team.
I'm the customer and I want a custard pie. But this is very good whipped cream custard pie. I don't care how good it is, I want the custard pie. Now let me have it. Now wait a minute, Ralph.
Now wait a second.
You're
not supposed to say let me have it and wait a minute.
Well, we don't have to do it now. We can do it tomorrow night in the show.
Say let me have it.
I don't want to.
Say let me have it, Norton.
All right. Let me have it.
All right.
Gleason paid Carney the highest salary of any supporting player, aware and sometimes resentful that he was dependent on Art to keep up the show's ratings. The two men valued their on-screen chemistry, but off-screen, they had little in common. Jackie was bossy and temperamental, while Art was gentle and self-effacing, and they rarely socialized off the set. Relationships were also sometimes strained with the rest of the cast and crew, who had serious reservations about Jackie's methods of work. He simply refused to rehearse.
Jackie felt that comedy is not funny if it's over-rehearsed, and boy, we weren't over-rehearsed.
In the beginning, Audrey and Gleason didn't get along too well. We never let him know that, but she would come home and she would complain.
He would laugh and say, "Sorry, but it's the way I want to do it." And if he was boss, it was done.
One of these days, bow in a kiss.
By the end of its second season, the Jackie Gleason Show was #8 in the Nielsen ratings, and fans had dubbed the entertainer Mr. Saturday Night. After only 4 years on the air, Jackie Gleason had the television industry in the palm of his hand, and he was ready to make the most of it.
You're watching Jackie Gleason, to the moon, Alice, on Biography. Watching Jackie Gleason, to the moon, Alice, on Biography.
Where is your mother?
Shopping.
Good crowd. What's that slop you're eating?
Good booze.
By 1953, over 1/3 of the country tuned in every Saturday night at 8 p.m. to see the Jackie Gleason Show.
It got out of hand. He got so much mail.
We used to get like 5,000 pieces a week. He had an audience. Like, they used to stand out there for hours just to get tickets.
Jackie couldn't go anywhere without being approached by fans. He was inundated with requests for autographs, for advice, and for money. Gleason loved the attention, but found it difficult to keep his ego in check.
He acted like a potentate. He dressed like a potentate. He always had a carnation, big red carnation in his lapel. When he walked into a restaurant, he walked in as if he was on a stage. He looked like an impresario. He bowed to people that weren't there. He was the king.
On the set, his attitude was beginning to annoy writers who felt he had grown disdainful of their work.
We must have a funnier card than this one, I know that. I'm glad you're going to. I told those writers. They wouldn't listen to me. They said, go out there, be brave.
I was not a big fan of Jackie Gleason. I didn't like him. I worked on his show for 2 weeks, and I was so glad to get off that show. Jackie Gleason was up in his tower, and when we were through with what we had written for him, we would send it up to him, and then the material would come back a slit under the door with notes on it, but there was no contact, so we never knew what he wanted.
He was at war with writers because of his dependency upon them. And so that made the relationship a love-hate one.
Jackie felt equally dependent on those who helped him turn his interest in music into another lucrative venture.
He couldn't write music, but he could bring someone in and tell them the chords and the notes he wanted. So in some way he heard it and got people to translate his imaginings.
In 1952, Gleason released his first album, Music for Lovers Only, a compilation of romantic standards, which went on to sell more than 500,000 copies. Jackie would produce 18 more top-rated albums over the next 6 years. Working with arranger Pete King, Gleason also wrote the love song Melancholy Serenade, which he used as the theme to his weekly show. Jackie was at a high point in his career. His personal life, however, was at a dismal low. His daughters had grown up without him. He remained legally married to a woman he rarely saw. And despite his penchant for love songs, he had soured on romance. Jackie was willing to give things another try, though, when he set his eyes on Marilyn Taylor, his choreographer's attractive younger sister.
The first show that she came on, Jackie walked in and he was watching the girls. And he stood alongside me, he said, "Who's that new girl?" He said, "Wow, she is something." And I looked at him because I could tell just by the way he looked at her, it was like, where did she come from, heaven?
There was a glow about him and an excitement, I guess, because he was always so anxious and eager and interested in things.
Jackie was now more anxious than ever to divorce Genevieve. The Gleasons began proceedings to obtain a legal separation.
He had asked me out, but he was married, and so we did not date, nothing, a year and a half. But at one point, he was separated, and I did have dinner with him, and it started a friendship that grew into a romance.
Jackie couldn't do enough to show off his love for his new girl, and in 1953, he created and conducted his own ballet, Tawny, starring Marilyn Taylor in the principal role. Jackie continued to successfully juggle his diverse career and complicated personal life until he slipped on a wet floor during an on-air sketch and fractured his leg. Although Art Carney did his best to cover up the accident.
And thank you very much for all of us. Thank you and good night.
Nothing could cover up the scandal that ensued when Gleason's concerned wife and his concerned girlfriend showed up at his bedside. The newspapers had a field day. Genevieve was livid, Maryland was mortified, and Gleason was spitting mad. Jackie told the press that he was still a Catholic, and even if divorced, he would never remarry. Marilyn refused to comment. For the first time, Gleason's private life was getting as much attention as his professional one. But the following year, all that would be forgotten. Gleason was about to sign the biggest deal of his life and produce 39 episodes of The Honeymooners that would turn the star into a legend.
You're watching Jackie Gleason, to the moon, Alice, on Biography.
Jackie Gleason co-starred with Art Carney in one of the most riveting biographical performances yet shown on television. The Laugh Maker, a drama about a compulsive comedian who hides his insecurities behind a mask of bravado, revealed more about the real Gleason than his public had ever seen.
You know, I was a nice average kid when I was young. Then I found out I could make people laugh. And I liked it. So I made them laugh some more. I got to feel real important. And if ever they didn't laugh, well, I felt a little hurt. Before I knew it, the nice average kid was buried. He died laughing.
Oh, reviewers praised Gleason's honest portrayal of the tortured comedian, but Jackie shrugged off any comparison to his own life.
Do you love him? Go on, tell her. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Who said anything about anybody loving anybody?
Sorry, Jerry.
What a routine this is. With a couple of good laughs, I could fracture an audience with it. Maybe I ought to call my writers up. Boy, I can hear the dialogue now. I say to her, what do you want with a slob like me when you can have a handsome guy like him? Maybe I could do a baggy pants bit and a couple of pratfalls.
Oh, Jerry, please.
Go on, get out, get out.
By 1954, 38-year-old Jackie Gleason was one of the most recognizable faces in America. That year, he wrangled the biggest contract of any performer in the history of television. In addition to his salary, CBS paid him $100,000 a year for the next 15 years to appear exclusively on their network.
See, you thought it was easy. And your salary it is.
Jackie relished the power he held over CBS and announced to surprised executives that he was bored and was pulling the plug on his #2 rated variety show and replacing it with 2 back-to-back half-hour programs.
Stage Show!
The first was Stage Show, which featured performances by everyone from Duke Ellington to a young Elvis Presley, making his first appearance on network television. But Jackie's second program for the network was an inspiration. A full half-hour version of The Honeymooners. The reason these shows look so good is Gleason insisted they be shot on film, vastly superior to the standard kinescopes of the day. But while other filmed programs were shot on a closed set, Gleason refused to give up the exhilaration of working in front of a live audience.
Hi, Alice. Hi, Trix. Live television is always stressful. You didn't have the luxury of going to a dressing room in the middle of the show to change costumes. You did it behind the flag with people looking at you, you know.
Hey, tell, who was that? Wait, tell, who are you? Chef of the Future. Oh, hello! I'm glad to have you aboard, Chef of the Future. I'm the Chef of the Future.
The old magic Chef of the Future. Humma, 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 humma. He invented humma, 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 humma.
Humma, 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 humma. I can't understand a word you say, Ralph. What are you getting excited for? You open up
The Honeymooners was probably the best successful situation comedy form in TV history. It was very much like a beloved comic strip. Those characters were, on one level, realistic, but in another, not realistic.
I won't be gone long, killer. I call you killer, 'cause you slay me.
And I'm calling Bellevue 'cause you're not.
He created the characters.
Bang, zoom.
And there was a lot of Ralph Cramden in Jackie.
You think I won't tell you? You think I won't tell you? Is that what you think, that I won't tell you?
That's right, oh Richard the chicken-hearted.
Just for that, I won't tell you.
He could go off the handle, scream and yell, not mean any of it.
Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! If I go like that goes with me, that set goes over my dead body. I couldn't get it out over your dead body. What do you think I am, a mountain climber? All right.
Gleason's physical comedy could always get a laugh, but it was the humanity of Ralph Cramden that showed off Jackie's true genius.
You have to be so likable to be able to get away with bang, zoom, and all this stuff, to be getting angry and yelling at the top of his lungs. You can't do it unless you have the compassion, unless they feel for this guy. You feel, the struggle he goes through every day.
I'm a mope. But I love you, sweetheart. Honest, I do. You're the greatest.
Oh, Ralph.
In 1956, after 39 episodes of The Honeymooners, Jackie earned his 4th Emmy nomination and had high hopes that this time he would finally win. But it wouldn't be Gleason who took home an award. Instead, it was Audrey Meadows who won her first Emmy, and Art Carney his second as Gleason's sidekick. Jackie felt snubbed.
Good night, everybody.
For some reason or other, he wasn't liked by everyone in the industry. And he didn't get awards, which is sad because he certainly deserved awards.
To add insult to injury, The Honeymooners placed a disappointing 19th in the ratings. Jackie was impatient for fresher challenges, and he abandoned his plans for a second season. But to Jackie, his professional problems seemed small in comparison to the heartache he felt when Marilyn Taylor, his girlfriend of 3 years, ended their relationship.
He and his first wife were Catholic, and she would not consent to a divorce. And I said, there's no future in this, and we broke up.
Jackie was depressed for months. With Marilyn by his side, he had felt some semblance of family. Now the 40-year-old dreaded being alone. Before long, he became infatuated with 2 new loves, golf and 22-year-old Honey Merrill.
The first time I met Jack was when I auditioned to become a showgirl on his show. And they were saying, okay, thank you very much. We'll call you next time for this one, that one, the other one. And you stay. And so I'm the last one sitting there, and nobody has said anything to me. And I said, how about me? And Jack said, oh, he said, you're hired, and we're having lunch. And that was the beginning.
The couple was soon spending all of their time together, and Jackie grew to depend on Honey's companionship to the point of near obsession.
I'd be going on an errand for him, and I would leave the house, and I'd be in the limousine, and I would be 15 minutes away from the house, and the phone would ring. Hello, Jack. What is it? I'm lonesome. I said, Jack, I just left the house 15 minutes ago. Well, when are you coming back? Well, I haven't even gotten there yet. Then when I got home, to punish me for having left, even though I was on his errand, he would be drunk.
The negative about Jackie was his drinking. He was not a pleasant drinker. When he had too much, you didn't want to be around.
Although he claimed he was happier than he had been in years, Jackie's excessive lifestyle was beginning to catch up with him. He was plagued by stomach problems and insomnia. Gleason passed entire nights reading everything from the classics to studies of the supernatural, trying to conquer his growing fear of death and come to terms with his painful childhood.
I think Jack's spiritual side was very, very strong. He saw what happened with his mother and father and his brother, and, you know, and that he wondered if prayers were ever answered. I really do believe that that's why he had an interest in religion, mysticism, paranormal psychology.
By 1959, Jackie was restless and anxious to get back into the spotlight. That year, he was wooed by Broadway producer David Merrick to star in his musical comedy, Take Me Along. Gleason knew that his name on the marquee could fill the house and asked to be paid a salary higher than any actor was receiving on stage, a whopping $5,050 a week.
We've agreed on the superiority of his talent. That's not in question. But apparently he needed some little extra proof that he was the greatest. And what greater proof is there in the American culture than being paid more money?
The winner, Jackie Gleason.
Take Me Along ran for over 448 performances. And on April 24th, 1960, Jackie took home the Tony Award for Best Actor in a Musical. For the television star who had never won an Emmy, it was the validation he had long hoped for.
I have always wanted to meet Helen Hayes. And it couldn't have been on a better occasion. I want to say I'm delighted. And also that in order to receive this award properly, I would have to break it into little pieces and give a bit to everyone connected with the show. And I must say that this is a sneaky way to get back on television.
By now, CBS was getting anxious for the Tony Award-winning actor to get back in front of the lens. Gleason knew that without him, CBS was losing valuable ratings points, as well as millions of dollars in sponsorship revenue. But the comic wasn't interested in returning to the exhausting demands of a weekly variety show. Jackie Gleason was sure that he could find an easier way to remain king of Saturday night television.
You're watching Jackie Gleason to the moon.
Programs such as To Tell...
You're watching Jackie Gleason to the moon.
Programs such as To Tell the Truth and I've Got a Secret were reaping high ratings for the networks and big paychecks for their hosts. Jackie believed that by getting in on the trend, he too could earn a fast and easy buck. On January 20th of that year, Gleason unveiled his own game show, You're in the Picture, where celebrity guests stuck their heads through cardboard backdrops and had to guess their own identity.
Am I a female statue?
No, what you said was right.
Yes,
You're the
yes,
discus thrower.
Oh, I forgot it.
Now, just try to think what the rest are. She's the discus thrower.
Yeah. Who's the female? Is he David? Is Arthur David?
There's no female.
Is such kind associated with this?
How did I get mixed up with this?
Jackie's idea was a complete and utter flop. By morning, You're in the Picture was the joke of the industry. But the following week, Jackie Gleason had the last laugh.
Last week, we did a show called You're in the Picture. That laid, without a doubt, the biggest bomb.
Audiences were charmed by the comedian's clever apology, and the network was temporarily appeased.
I'd like to tell you another thing an actor does. He tries to find out who's to blame for this. He's not. That's a cinch. So I'm sitting there grumbling to myself after the thing. Who's to blame for that? I tried to find out whether it was the guy that came up with the idea. It wasn't him, because I went along with him, calling in the girls and everything. Look at this. And it wasn't the producer, because I had a little hand in that, you know. I'm very sneaky. I get in everything. The director put the show on pretty good. The writers, I wrote some of the stuff, so I have nothing to complain at. I finally found out the guy to blame for this whole thing. Just before the show goes on, there's a guy that says, "You're on the air." That is the dirty part.
Jackie had salvaged his time slot, but he had no idea what he was going to do next.
I'm coming back next week. I don't know what we're gonna do.
He tried everything from a revamped variety show to talk shows.
Hi.
Nothing worked. That spring, the 45-year-old was tempted by director Robert Rosson's offer to return to the big screen. But Jackie had not forgotten his Hollywood failure of the 1940s, and now, at the peak of his career, he was afraid of what might become a very public humiliation. Rosson overcame Gleason's hesitation with a role that promised to be nothing like his television persona, that of pool legend Minnesota Fats.
You like to gamble, Eddie? Gamble money on pool games?
Fats, let you and I shoot a game of straight pool.
$100?
Well, you shoot big-time pool, Fats. I mean, that's what everybody says, you shoot big-time pool. Let's make it $200 a game.
Now I know why they call you Fast Eddie.
Cast alongside Paul Newman, Piper Laurie, and George C. Scott in The Hustler, Jackie played the intimidating master pool shark, challenged by a desperate young con artist.
Didn't leave you much.
He only had 6 pages in that whole script. 3 sides, 6 pages. I guess there wasn't more than 100 words.
You left enough. 6 in the corner.
It was just unbelievable. He was so marvelous, his presence, the way he moved, just Minnesota Fats, and that's what he was.
Look at the way he moves, like a dancer.
Newman and him were shooting pool, and of course he did his own shots.
7-ball in the corner.
Willie Moscone did Newman shots, and Jackie did his own shots. You can tell because when Jackie's shooting, they follow the ball right through.
Gleason drew on the experiences of his misspent youth in the pool halls of Brooklyn. His performance was brilliant. The Hustler was a hit and garnered 9 Academy Award nominations. Jackie was stunned when his small part was considered so powerful that he received an Oscar nomination as Best Supporting Actor.
That's, look, I got about $200 here. I mean, you can't run out on me. You watch me.
I think it proved a lot to Hollywood, and I think it proved a lot to him that he really could do this. And maybe it was spitting in the face of the people who 20 years earlier, or 15 years earlier, told him, you're no good or you can't do it.
Although Jackie was disappointed when the Best Supporting Actor award went to George Chakiris for West Side Story, Gleason knew that his performance had put him in the same league as Hollywood's finest dramatic actors. On the heels of his success, Jackie easily convinced 20th Century Fox to finance his own dream project. In April 1961, he met director Gene Kelly in Paris to begin work on Gigot. Gleason wrote the original story, oversaw the musical score, and cast himself in the title role, that of a mute simpleton who falls in love with a prostitute and her young daughter. Influenced by his silent film favorites Chaplin and Keaton, Gleason relied on the pantomime skills that he had perfected on television. Gigot premiered in June 1962. Jackie was crushed when critics called the film maudlin and out of date, although he was proud of the glowing reviews he earned for his performance. He quickly moved on to his third Hollywood production, Requiem for a Heavyweight, playing the debt-ridden manager of an aging boxer alongside Mickey Rooney and Anthony Quinn.
From the fiery brilliance of four great stars comes a motion picture of deep insight and crashing impact.
My life is on mine. You cross me now and I'm dead.
Frank Sinatra never liked to rehearse, and he only did one take, and Jackie had adopted that method, and I think he was right. For himself, he was absolutely right. But I mean, I like to do a thing over and over again, so we had a little problem about that. But oh my gosh, he was wonderful. He was wonderful in the picture. I loved to work with him. I don't know whether he enjoyed working with me.
You think. You dirty, stinking fink.
Monsieur darling, take a good look at yourself in the mirror, and then say goodbye to what you see.
Although Requiem for a Heavyweight was a box office disappointment, Gleason's performance was lauded. Jackie felt that he was on a roll and managed to squeeze in 2 more films, bringing his total to 5 productions in only 3 years. Gleason had proved that he had what it took to make it in Hollywood. But Jackie missed the creative autonomy he enjoyed on the small screen.
Sam, a little traveling music.
When he finally called CBS executives and said that Jackie Gleason was coming home to television,
And away we go.
it was music to their ears.
You're watching Jackie Gleason. To the moon, Alice, on Biography.
Right now, you can get 50% off.
Recording date 9/25/62, scene 1, and the take is 2.
From New York City, the entertainment capital of the world, it's the Jackie Gleason Show and his American Scene magazine.
On September 29th, 1962, the June Taylor Dancers once again took to the stage for the debut of Jackie Gleason and his American Scene magazine. It had been 6 years since Jackie had appeared in the variety format that suited him best, and it seemed everyone tuned in to watch.
How sweet it is.
Jackie Gleason was one of the major stars of the CBS stable. He gave us a large audience. He was always won his time period. It was pure television.
Gleason returned with his cast of characters, although The Honeymooners was notably absent from the show's regular lineup. Art Carney had gone on to pursue a film career, and Audrey Meadows had left the show to get married. Still, American Scene magazine easily made TV's top 20 for its first 2 seasons. But in 1964, a restless Jackie thought it was time for a change and decided to move the entire production to Miami, where he could play golf year-round.
I said, how can I rehearse in Florida? You're out playing golf, but I'll be out in the, you'll be out in the sun. I'd be in a studio. I'll have to pull the blinds down to keep the sun out so I can work and rehearse and think I'm back in New York. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, rehearse at night.
The CBS brass really felt that Jackie was perhaps one of the several most difficult personalities we had ever dealt with. But you never ordered Jackie Gleason to do anything. He was irreplaceable. And he was worth all the difficulties we had with him.
On August 1st, 1965, Jackie loaded up the cast and crew, as well as the press and a swinging Dixieland band, for a 24-hour shindig from New York to Miami, aboard a train called the Great Gleason Express.
Instead of having the steam engine, you know, go whoo, 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 where this train comes into a station, you would hear, away we go. Jackie would get out at every stop and wave, and people stood there 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, just to wave at the great one.
Jackie emerges into the hot Miami sun, and the large crowd of photographers and fans press in.
Thousands of tourists flocked to the southern city, and in return, Miami provided Gleason with a luxurious house on the fairway of the Miami Beach Country Club, a custom-made Rolls-Royce golf cart, and even named a street after him.
Everything's been wonderful. The press has been sensational, except for one wise guy, you know. A columnist, he had a thing. He says, Jackie Gleason is bringing a new industry to Miami. TV in the round.
After an impressive start, however, Jackie Gleason and his American Scene magazine had fallen out of the ratings top 20. Jackie was further dismayed that the 39 filmed episodes of The Honeymooners in syndication were now more popular than his current show. But if there was one thing that the 46-year-old comedian understood, it was how to give his fans what they wanted. In December of 1965, Gleason put out a call to two of his former castmates, Art Carney and Audrey Meadows, telling them he was ready to bring back the Honeymooners for an hour-long musical special called The Adoption.
As soon as that woman arrives, you're to keep your mouth shut. You're to close your mouth like that. I'll do all the talking because you're too nervous. You're too upset. Don't Ralph me. Now, we don't want to blow this thing, so you keep your mouth shut. I'll do all the talking. You talk to her. I'm going in the bedroom.
In this rare footage, unseen since its first broadcast, Alice, Ralph, and Ed were reunited, this time to sing.
Little girl, what are you holding out your hands for? Maybe you're making lots of plans for my heart.
Fans were thrilled to see this newest version of their favorite quarreling couples, and Jackie's show leapt to 5th place in the ratings.
From the sound and fun capital of the world, Miami Beach, we bring you the Jackie Gleason Show.
For his 3rd season in Miami, Jackie renamed his program The Jackie Gleason Show. He changed everything to color and went on to produce 49 more Honeymooner specials, hiring musical comedy performers Sheila McRae and Jane Keane to play Alice and Trixie.
He told me once, I don't want challenges. Challenges are hard. I want to do what I like. I want to do fun. So everything I do that I know I can do.
Eager to remind the public that he was a movie star as well, Jackie kept busy in a string of feature films during his time off from television. By 1968, Jackie and Honey had been together for 12 years, and Gleason finally asked his wife for a divorce. When Genevieve refused, Jackie took the battle to court. But as the legal issues dragged on, Honey began having second thoughts. In April 1969, she left Jackie for good.
He was very insecure, and he could be very kind, and he could sometimes be mean. But I cannot imagine, knowing his background, that you could hate him.
I think it has to go back to the fact that his father had deserted him, so how much time do you invest in anybody without getting hurt? You don't want to be alone, yet you can't give of yourself to maintain any meaningful relationship.
In July 1970, 54-year-old Jackie shocked friends when only 10 days after his divorce from Genevieve had become final, he married 37-year-old Beverly McKittrick, a secretary who he had recently met on the fairway.
He might have been looking to fill some kind of void in his life. You know, he was sort of almost the type that needed a relationship, and he needed to have that bond for whatever reason.
By 1970, the new buzzword in television was demographics, and networks were scrambling to replace longtime favorite shows with new programs that could win over younger audiences.
But baby, it's not today, it's not the action. I mean, this is in, that's out. Now, Jackie.
CBS had decided to totally revamp their primetime lineup, and that September, Gleason's weekly spot was canceled.
Variety show was canceled because he appealed to an older audience. He was in the top 10, but Jackie was giving us enough trouble at that point, and the show had escalated to such a high price that we decided cancel Jackie. Jackie expected it, but I don't think he ever really recovered from that blow.
For Jackie, the honeymoon was over. After 21 years on television, Jackie Gleason was off the air, and the 54-year-old entertainer feared that the best years of his life were behind him.
Who is your favorite TV comedian?
Sunshine State's biggest draw, and the Inverary Country Club asked him to lend his name to their annual golf tournament. Jackie loved fronting the high-profile charitable event that drew such luminaries as Bob Hope, Gerald Ford, and Jack Nicklaus. For Jackie, life on the fairway was swell, but by 1973, his 3-year marriage to Beverly McKittrick was proving a mistake. Without television work to distract him, Gleason grew depressed and realized he had little to share with his wife besides golf and booze. Jackie was ready to call it quits when he ran into his old flame, Marilyn Taylor, now a widowed mother. It was love all over again, and Jackie resolved to win her back. Beverly was furious and dug in her heels. The couple was locked in a bitter battle until the divorce was finalized in 1974. The following year, 59-year-old Jackie Gleason proposed to 50-year-old Marilyn Taylor Horwich.
The door opened and the sunshine came in, and Jackie was silhouetted in the doorway, and at the top of his voice he sang, "It's very clear, our love is here too." That was our favorite song. That's our always. And of course the tears just came to my eyes, and he came in and he said, "Okay, we're getting married."
On December 16th, 1975, 27 years after they first met, Jackie and Marilyn wed at the Jockey Club in Miami Beach.
How about a kiss? We missed it over here.
That's easy.
Give him another one of those. Let's have another.
With Marilyn and her son Craig in his life, Jackie felt more settled than he ever had before. His old creative juices began flowing again, and Gleason was delighted when several months later, Burt Reynolds called and begged him to be in his next film, Smokey and the Bandit, playing a redneck sheriff. Reynolds knew that Jackie was the only man for the job, but studio executives needed some convincing.
I was desperate for Gleason and really pushed. Truthfully, they just didn't think about him because they didn't think they had a chance of getting him. But I pushed for him, then they made an offer. He said, "This is the worst part I've ever read, I'll take it."
I happen to be Buford T. Justice, a distinguished officer of over 30 years seniority, one of the most highly respected law enforcement agents in the United States of America.
Jackie signed on for 2 weeks of work to appear as Sheriff Buford T. Justice opposite Reynolds and Sally Field.
I gotta barbecue your ass in molasses.
When I asked him how he was going to play it, he said, "I'm just going to cuss the whole time." And I said, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, blowing Doc.
Stacking, I say. You must be in a hell of a hurry, huh, Sheriff? Bet your ass on that, boy.
I was just a goddamn maniac all the way from Texarkana, Texas.
Really? Was he a bank robber?
Bank robbing? Huh? Bank robbing is baby shit alongside of what this dude is doing. What-o?
Oh, let me pay for it. Let me pay for it. No, you're an officer of the law. I'd be honored.
Much obliged. Where's the can? I got to take the squirt.
Jackie would hold court, as far as I could see. He had a group of people around him. I felt I was trying to, like, poke my head in to even hear what he was saying. He held court all day.
He had 9 billion stories to tell, and they were all good. He had this guy, Mal, who was with him for, I don't know, 40 years or something. And he would say, about 9 o'clock, he'd say, Mal, hamburger. And that meant, bring me a glass of vodka. And one day I said, Mr. Gleason, why do you say hamburger? And he said, I don't want the crew to know I'm drinking. You know, I mean, like the crew didn't know.
As that fat guy on television says, boy, that's good food.
But even with the smash success of Smokey and the Bandit, Jackie would never be too big for the small screen. Between 1976 and 1978, Gleason kept the Honeymooners alive with a series of specials from Miami, reuniting him with Art Carney, Audrey Meadows, and Jane Keane.
Let me rephrase the question, Ralph. Who is #1 in your life? Your boss or your wife?
At 3 o'clock in the morning, that's an unfair question.
Would you like me to ask it again at 4 o'clock? Who is #1, Ralph? Answer me.
But Alice...
Answer me!
Answer her, Brandon, so we can all
By 1978, Gleason had become Florida's local landmark, and that year he shocked friends by agreeing to replace George C. Scott in the national tour of Sly Fox, an updated version of Valpone.
I've got enough health to start another man. Me is smoking a booze. How sweet it is.
The 62-year-old received strong reviews, but the production itself was uninspired and ticket sales lagged. Terrified by his inability to please audiences and turn a profit, Jackie stayed up nights, smoking and drinking, hoping to drown his fears. By the time the show reached Chicago, Gleason was experiencing chest pains. On May 30th, he checked into the hospital to undergo triple bypass surgery. Jackie spent the next 3 weeks confined to his bed, and after a lengthy and painful recovery, he realized he would have to slow down. But at the age of 68, Jackie Gleason would find that a resurgence of interest in his most popular character would make retirement impossible.
Baby, you're the greatest.
You're watching Jackie Gleason.
By 1984, the 39 episodes of The Honeymooners from 1956 were still running in syndication and remained as popular as ever. Jackie Gleason had become an American icon, and that year, Ralph was launched, an organization that grew to include 8,000 Honeymooners devotees.
One of these days, Alice. One of these days. Bang, zoom. Bang, zoom.
Audiences couldn't get enough of the filmed episodes, now termed the Classic 39. But on February 6, 1985, Gleason stunned everyone by announcing that he was in possession of over 70 kinescope segments that had been presumed lost forever.
Shut up!
Fans begged for a Gleason-Carney reunion, but when producer Robert Halmy approached the stars with an original TV movie screenplay, Gleason stalled and Carney balked. In the years since The Honeymooners had gone off the air, Carney had become an Academy Award-winning film star. For the first time in his 30-year collaboration with Gleason, Carney asked for equal billing and equal pay. That September, the duo appeared on screen together again in Izzy and Mo, the story of two ex-vaudevillians who go undercover as prohibition officers.
Can't quit now? What do you mean I can't quit? Somebody just put a hole in me, didn't they? Worse than that, they put a hole in my suit. First time in my life I spent more than $29 on a suit.
You spent $29 for that, son?
Yes.
Not only have you been shot, but you've been robbed.
The reviews for Gleason and Carney were superb, but Jackie was disheartened that Izzy and Mo might be the last time that he and Carney would share the screen.
Goodbye. Farewell. Ta-ta. On toodle-doo.
The following year, Gleason starred opposite Tom Hanks in Nothing in Common, director Gary Marshall's bittersweet drama about an unsympathetic and dying father who is cared for by his estranged son.
I gave her a name. That's what I did. I gave her a son. I gave her food and clothes for 36 years. I did pretty good.
Did you ever tell her that you loved her?
That's none of your goddamn business.
Yeah, it is my business. It is my business. She's my mom. You cheated on her. And then when you did finally get in the same bed with her, you made her feel dirty.
You have no right to talk to me like that. That's between your mother and me. It has nothing to do with you.
I grew up in this house, Dad. I was the one you kicked in the ass for 20 years.
Well, it looks like you're doing pretty good. You're riding around the Jeep, you're making money, you're buffing everything in sight. I must have done something right.
So now you approve of me now that I'm an adult, because you certainly never approved of me when I was a kid.
Approve of you? I never knew what the hell you were talking about.
Critics called Jackie's performance in Nothing in Common the best of his life. But by 1987, Gleason's health was failing once again. His stomach pains had become unbearable, and he was admitted to Imperial Point Hospital in Fort Lauderdale, where he was diagnosed with terminal colon cancer. On June 18th, Gleason checked out of the hospital and went home. Ignoring his doctor's advice, he cut off his oxygen tank and continued to smoke. Jackie decided to die the way he had lived, on his own terms.
If he couldn't live the way he wanted, what the hell's the sense of living? You know, if he couldn't drink, he couldn't eat, he couldn't do the things he wanted, he wasn't particularly interested.
Jackie Gleason died at the age of 71 on June 24th, 1987. In his will, he asked only that his friends gather together to remember him.
I took the news very hard when he died. This can't be, you know. You can't block out the sun. I mean, it's a hard light to put out in your life.
He had fought his way out of the tenements of Brooklyn to become one of the most famous faces in television. In spite of his personal pain and private demons, he left a legacy of laughter that continues to entertain generation after generation. He was unique. He was the great one. He was Jackie Gleason.
I gotta get more of these.
He was always a powerhouse on the screen. It didn't matter almost what he was saying or what part he was playing. He was the greatest.
He was immensely talented. He was the great one in my eyes.
Oh, I love you, Ralph.
Baby, you're the greatest.
He was larger than life. You know, it's trite now when they say they won't see his legs again. He won't see his legs again.
To me, Jackie Gleason is eternal.
Jackie was his own man. He did what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it. He had a lot of friends, and he also made a lot of enemies. They were not all perfect.
In the 1950s, Jackie Gleason designed his own home, and he wasn't even gay. And in true fashion, spared no expense on its construction. Swedish carpenters were brought in to install the precious wood interiors. And there was also a disco in the basement, along with one of the first in-home video projection systems. God only knows what he showed up there. Films, classics, little adult movie, who knows. But despite the incredible costs, it didn't quite turn out to be the dream house Gleason envisioned. He was frequently heard to complain that the roof leaked. Get a bucket! Coming up next, our night of great comedy continues with Benny Hill.
Come back.
Please.